Since after revisiting 28 Days Later for the first time in years, I knew it was still pretty intense and shocking like I remembered. Now, what did I think of its sequel after just watching it for the first time? Well, I'll tell you as I review 28 Weeks Later. Big T's Entertainment Rankings and Reviews. So, greetings, my fellow YouTubers, and welcome to Big D's Entertainment Rankings and Reviews. I'm the Big D, and this time around, I bring to you a review of the 2007 post apocalyptic horror flick 28 Weeks Later, released by Fox, along with Fox Atomic, a short lived subsidiary of theirs, and other studios. Directed by Juan Carlos Fresnadillo, who co-wrote it with Rohan Joffé, Enrique Lopez Levine, and Jesus Olmo. This, of course, is the sequel to 28 Days Later, released in April of 2007 in London, which made its premiere, and then a few weeks later, fully in the UK and the US. Now, the film stars Robert Carlyle, Rose Byrne, Harold Perrineau, Idris Elba, and Jeremy Renner. Yes, before he even got well known for the Hurt Locker and the MCU. The film is set just over 6 months after the events of the first film, depicting the efforts of US led NATO forces to establish a safe zone in London. The consequence of two young siblings breaking protocol to find a photograph of their mother and the resulting reintroduction of the rage virus into the safe zone. This film did fine, whatever. It got good reviews. It didn't quite come close to being as big a hit as big as its predecessor, but still did just fine. If you have not seen my review of 28 Days Later, check it out by clicking on that card before you go into this one, okay? Okay, let's begin. During the initial outbreak of the rage virus, Donald Harris and his wife Alice and four other survivors hide in a fortified college on the outskirts of London and let in a young boy from outside. However, moments later, the infected who have followed the boy break in and kill the other survivors. Alice searches for the boy upstairs. Dawn urges her to leave the boy, but she refuses and is cornered by the infected. Don flees and leaves on a boat while Alice screams after him. After the infected die of starvation, NATO forces led by the US take control of Great Britain and begin to rebuild the island. 28 weeks after the outbreak, the US military, under the command of Brigadier General Stone, brings settlers and refugees into District 1, a heavily guarded safe zone on the Isle of Dogs. Don reunites with his children, Tammy and Andy, who were abroad on a school trip during the outbreak, but lies about abandoning their mother. Sergeant Doyle, a Delta Force sniper, is among the soldiers guarding District 1. Tammy and Andy sneak out of the safe zone to visit their former home, hoping to recover a photograph of Alice due to Andy's worrying of forgetting what their mother looked like. Inside, Andy discovers Alice alive, but in a delirious state. Soldiers arrive and escort the children and Alice back to District 1. The children are kept in an isolation room and visited by Don, who denied the act when confronted about his deception. Alice is quarantined and examined by Scarlett, a U.S. Army medical officer, and discovered to be an asymptomatic carrier of the rage virus. Don visits her in violation of protocol and pleads for forgiveness. After kissing Alice, he immediately becomes infected through her saliva and brutally kills her before going on a rampage. Don's infection triggers a rapid chain reaction of transmissions, killing both civilians and military personnel. Scarlett rescues Tammy and Andy from an isolation room, believing they may possess Alice's genetic immunity to the virus, which could lead to a cure. In the chaos, Tammy and Scarlett get separated from Andy and are able to find shelter with the help of a survivor, Sam. Unable to contain the outbreak, Stone issues an order for the indiscriminate execution of all individuals. Seeking Andy through his scope, Doyle refuses to comply and abandons his final post. Well, not final, excuse me. His post to help the small group of survivors flee. A sniper kills two of the group, but Doyle is able to return to fire with Andy's help and kills him. The group made up of Andy, Doyle, Sam, Scarlett, and Tammy manages to escape District 1 just as the Air Force, the U.S. Air Force as, firebombs the entire zone but are followed into the desolate London by a surviving Dawn. Another soldier, Flynn, arrives in a helicopter at Regent's Park to extract Doyle, and he pleads him to fly the children across the English Channel to safety, but Flynn refuses. As a horde of infected chases the group, a desperate Sam latches onto the flying helicopter, but is infected when Flynn uses the rotor blades to kill the horde. Flynn instructs Doyle to meet him at Wembley Stadium alone, but Doyle keeps the remaining trio with him. They break into an abandoned car to escape nerve gas that has been released to kill the infected, but are unable to start the car. As soldiers with flamethrowers drawn near, Doyle exits the car to successfully push start it, but is burned alive. Now for the ending. You know the procedure as always. You have 5 seconds to stop this video at once. Go to the description box below and fast forward to the time below. If you've seen this movie already, please continue. Okay, you've been warned. Scarlett and the children escape aerial gunfire in the London Underground, navigating the darkness with a night vision rifle scope. They are ambushed by Dawn, who kills Scarlett and bites Andy. Tammy shoots Dawn dead as Andy runs away, becoming a carrier like Alice. Andy asks if he's now one of the infected, but Tammy reassures him that he is not. Vowing to stick together, Tammy and Andy reach Wembley Stadium, where Flynn reluctantly flies them to France. 28 days later, a French voice is heard over the radio in Flynn's abandoned helicopter requesting help. And in the end, we see a group of infected people emerging from a Paris metro station near the Eiffel Tower, revealing that the virus has spread to mainland Europe. End of story. So, what did I think of 28 Weeks Later? Well, after just watching it for the first time ever, I'm going to say it's not too bad. I mean, I thought it was almost as good as its predecessor in ways. I especially really liked the part where the the helicopter the helicopter's rotor blades kills the big horde of people infected. Yeah, that was really intense. There was even some more bloody bits and what have you. So overall, I thought it wasn't too bad. Upon its release, it kind of fell just a tiny bit off from the 82 million its predecessor made. The film made 17 now, but still, nevertheless, eventually became a hit, making 72 million worldwide on its $15 million budget. I mean, the film did open pretty well at the box office, coming in second despite losing to Spider Man 3. The reviews on Rotten Tomatoes have it let a little bit less than its predecessor or its sequel 28 years later. At 73%, they say while this film lacks the humanism that made the first one a classic, it's made up with fantastic atmosphere and punchy direction. Now that I do agree on, yes, it kind of lacks the humanism that made its predecessor a classic. That I agree with, but its atmosphere and direction is absolutely superb. Mad Creek has a score of 78. And some reviews view London called the film an exciting, action-packed, and superbly directed thriller that more than lives up to the original. A.O. Scott of the New York Times remarked that it is brutal and almost exhaustingly terrifying, as any respectable zombie movie should be. It is also bracingly smart both in its ideas and in its techniques. Derek Ellie of Variety called it a full-bore zombie romp that more than delivers the genre goods. Rotten Tomatoes lists the film on its 100 best zombie movies ranked by the Tomato Meter. Garland, the writer of its predecessor and the sequel to this, commented on the film, calling it a good early lesson in the difference in making something in a kind of enthusiastic, nonsensical way. In comparison to a project that is generated by a different sort of imperative, which is there should be another one. John Murphy does the score for the film, and I'm gonna say it's pretty good and what have you. While it's almost as good as the soundtrack to its predecessor, but still proved to be a good one. I mean, now after this, they had planned to do 20, well, what would have been 28 months later, but the film went into development hell where it stayed in there for years until last year when Sony managed to get it, and then thus the name and thus the title was now 28 years later, and it was released this past summer. But anyway, 28 weeks later is still pretty good. I mean, while it's almost as good as its predecessor, in my opinion, but don't take my word for it, you be the judge. I still thought it was a pretty good flick. For our cast, we have Robert Carlyle as Don. Good. Rose Byrne, yes, this was one of her early films, as Scarlet. Jeremy Renner, yes, even before he was Hawkeye in the MCU as Doyle. I gotta give him credit. Harold Perrineau played Flynn. I gotta give him credit for what he had to offer. We even have Imogen Poots in her second film after V for Vendetta. Of course, she went on to appear in numerous films. Mostly, you would know her from maybe films like Green Room, or yes, even that awful Black Christmas reboot from 2019. That's right, you heard me correctly. She plays Tammy. I will say she's good. I almost didn't know that was her. Annie is played by Macintosh Muggleton. Catherine McCormick played Alice. And Idris Elba also, before he even became a big name and appeared in films like Obsessed or even very well as it's hard to say this, people. He was Heimdall in the MCU, starting with Thor. But anyway, 28 weeks later, it's pretty good. If you like the first film, you might enjoy this one too. So, what I recommend, then I'd say sure go ahead. But if you're a hardcore completionist, then a one-time watch would be worth it as well if you're into stuff like this. So give 28 weeks later a shot and you might enjoy it. So what did you think of 28 weeks later? Let me know in the comments section below. If you like this video, click the like button, subscribe, and be a part of the Big D Nation. Continue to help support my channel, and you know the rest. Join me next time when I bring to you a spoiler-free review of the newest installment, 28 Years Later. So if you like this, check out these other vids. In the upper left-hand corner is my TV log special on the post-apocalyptic series The Last of Us from HBO. Or go to the upper right-hand corner and see my re-review of another horror flick from 2007, and that's Rob Zombie's Halloween. Or you can check out my review of the sequel to that in the bottom left hand corner. And the bottom right hand corner is the button you can click to subscribe. If you like rankings and reviews on movies, TV, music, video games, etc., then I'm your guy. Thanks for watching. Until next time, I'm the Big D saying, see ya.